Welcome to the Candidate Forum. On behalf of KBBN 923, KCNI KBBN, the City of Provo, and the Custer County Chief, I'd like to welcome you to tonight's forum. We will first hear from District 2 and District 6 supervisor candidates that are here, and thank you for attending. Then we will hear from the Legislative District 43 candidates. For the questions tonight, through our media and print, we ask the public to send us questions, and those will be asked along with questions that the news media has prepared. Each candidate will be given 90 seconds to answer. If you don't feel your 90 seconds long, you don't feel like you have to take it, okay? I don't know why I know. That to you. You gotta have that, right? Anyway, and I am the timer, and when I say time is up, time is up. Would any of you like a 30-second notification, or you're good with it? Okay, that's great to hear. So the media will take turns asking questions first. The candidates will take turns asking questions first. So Corey's going to get the last question, and then you'll be last then, okay? Does that make sense? So going down the line, you have to remember who just answered the question, okay? I would like you all to be sure and put your phones on silent, please. And we thank both KCNI and KBBN for streaming this on their social media pages. We had questions on exactly what district the supervisors are. So we printed those out, and they're over there, so you know exactly where 1 through 7 all goes, and we're just talking about 2 and 4 tonight. Again, thank you for coming, and Andrew will start the first question now, and Tammy, you will answer the first question going this way. Thank you all.
All right, the first question is pretty straightforward. What do you see as the biggest issue facing Custer County, and how would you like to address it?
One of the biggest issues I see is when our legislature does unfunded mandates.
Okay, 1 second, I'm sorry. Let's trade out. Will, can you give her your mic?
When we have unfunded mandates and to try to keep our tax levies low, we can survive, we can still work and still offer the same services that we are offering right now.
And Tammy, next time hold the mic even closer.
Okay.
Can you ask the question again, please?
Yes. What do you see as the biggest issue facing the county, and how would you like to address it?
Well, the biggest issue I see facing the county is, of course, taxes, as everybody knows. And to face that, the county board has to come together and figure out ways to either slow the taxes down or to cut some things and not to raise taxes. The problem is, guys, is we're in a very challenging state of mind right now in our whole country. Everything's up as far as your equipment is up about 22%. All your asphalt and stuff is up about 18% from last year. So to keep the taxes the same, something's got to change. And so a guy's got to work on whether you don't do as much within the county, but you just got to get together and figure that out. So as far as not being on the board right now, I can't really say about the legislature stuff as far as the mandates and stuff, but that's what I think a guy needs to do. So.
I would say one of the things is fair. We talk about taxes, fair taxing. You know, as a real estate agent, I'm all over Custer County. What I would like to see is a little more work with our county, going out and assessing everyone that needs to be assessed. I go to properties that I don't know if there's permits not being filed or what, but I have found people aren't being taxed on the property they have. So if we get it to where everybody's being taxed for what they own, fair assessment for everybody, I think it'll bring more money in, and that's what you need. It's all about the budget, it's all about the money.
I think the biggest issue for Custer County will be balancing the needs for the county in order for it to thrive, and yet protecting the taxpayer's dollar. How I plan to address that is I will be well informed of what's going on in our legislature and what sorts of bills are coming down the pipe regarding taxes, and hopefully vote for an individual that will really represent our part of the state, because we have needs that are much different from our neighbors to the east. So again, it's all about money, and I think everybody's fighting for those tax dollars, but I plan to be informed, and I plan to make good decisions and informed decisions.
In talking with people, I mean, I hate to parrot the same thing, but a lot of people, you know, taxes is the big issue for them. And we just need to work to get the most bang for our buck out of the dollars we have. I mean, the economy right now is horrible, and we just need to stretch our money the best and most efficient method that we can.
Thank you. Now, I forgot to have you introduce yourself, but we do have the place cards, but I realize people in the back maybe can't see. So on this next round, and every time you do answer a question, will you say your district number, because the people in District 2 will vote for 2, and District 4 will vote for 4. So Mona, will you please answer the second question, and Mr. Markham, you get to be first on the docket.
Okay. And I don't know if Tammy's going to have an advantage of this or not, if she's an incumbent, but this is my question. There have been supervisor board meetings where it appears that supervisors are asked or they're scheduled to vote on issues, and they may not have the information in front of them. Now, covering school boards in the city of Broken Bow, they provide meeting packets prior to the meeting. You can go online, you can see more than an agenda. You can see the budget, you can see plans, you can see the details that are going to be voted on. Custer County does provide an agenda, but no further details. So if you are elected, comment on how you would make sure you are making informed decisions, and also how that information is available to both the public and the media.
James Markham, District 4. I'm on the village board. I've been on that for 10 years in Myrna, and we inform people through.
Just
Hello?
keep going, it cuts out a little bit.
What's that?
Keep going.
Okay. We've been informed. We inform people about our agendas and stuff, and I think that's a big deal, is to have everybody informed.
I'm going to trade you.
Okay.
We'll figure something out.
You're supposed to have everybody informed on your meetings. That's just a state deal. Is that people's got to know about what your meetings are all about, and the agenda. So if I get elected, that's one of the things that I really want everybody to know is what's up to vote on, is what is there, and what the budget is, because I think that's a highly big thing for the public to know, so they can either come to the meeting and address it, or be informed about it. So.
Maureen Huntsberger, I'm District 4 also. I've been a part of quite a few boards in this community, and I have yet to, I guess, not have an agenda at least a week ahead of time. and a budget and things available. So this would be news to me that you're getting it the day of the meeting. I guess if I get elected, you know, work together with Connie to get these agendas and the budgets and thing out in a timely manner. It's something that I think the supervisors come together and visit with her about and make sure that these things are available prior to the meeting. It would just make it convenient for everyone, keep everyone informed, especially the supervisors. It's hard to look through papers quickly and make an informed decision. Those things need to be looked at ahead of time, and I'm definitely a person, I need to look at something and think about it, which most of us do. So I think if I get elected, it's just one of those things you have to work together as a team and get those things out in a timely manner.
When I decided to file for this supervisor's position, Janet Dobish, District 4, I started attending meetings because I thought that was the best way for me to figure out if I could handle the responsibilities. I want to say this before I give you a direct answer. I've been impressed with how the meetings have been run. I think they've been well run, and I've been impressed with how the county employees present their information. And I especially like the roll call vote because I think transparency is extremely important. I do believe it is important that the supervisors have the information they need to make the decisions that are important. There's a lot going on in Custer County. I've learned that just by attending the meetings that I've gone to. And so I think the county employees are the type of people that if you approach them with suggestions that are reasonable or express your concerns, I think they would be more than willing to adjust to whatever the public would like to see.
Corey Clay, District 2. Being a current county employee, I do have, some knowledge of the meetings and how they go, what goes on. The big thing for me is definitely, reading the agendas to find out what's going on. It's no different than city council meetings. What's happening? Is there something we need to know about? What do we need to know about? If we do, ask questions. I know that agenda doesn't always give everything involved. I do know if elected, I'm open. I'm easy to talk to. So you can come to me, ask questions, make suggestions. I'm here for you. I don't have an agenda going into this.
I'm Tammy Clef, District 2, and the agendas are sent out on Friday afternoon and sometimes Friday morning, but they're updated, but that is the deadline. And started this year, I think it was, they started giving monthly reports before the meeting, so we have an opportunity to review those. But I think that is a wonderful idea that we do get more information. And as a county board member presently, I encourage all of you to come to the meetings, and then we hear your thoughts and your input, and we are happy to hear that, and hopefully we can do things that work for everyone. Thank you.
You will ask the next question, and Mo, you are up first.
Okay, the questions that I have actually were submitted by the public, and this is their first question. What is your primary motivation for seeking the position?
Okay. So the reason I decided to put my name in the hat for District 4, I sat down and thought about it. I have been on quite a few boards in Custer County community. I've enjoyed all my time on the boards I've been on. I know some people can't say that, but I've enjoyed all my time. I've enjoyed serving on the chamber. I've enjoyed serving on Salvation Army and different voluntary groups. So I just thought this is a great way to take the experience that I have in the things I have served on, turn it into, some civic leadership, and continue to do the great job that Dwayne's been doing for our district.
Jan Dobish, District 4. I come from a family who values education, and I view running for the county as an opportunity to learn about the needs and challenges of Custer County. My family has always been civic-minded. My dad was commander for the American Legion for several years, worked with the volunteer fire department, so it's kind of a legacy in my family to be willing to give back to your community. I don't have a personal agenda. I hope that's a good thing. I will come in open-minded. I'm willing to listen to all sides of an issue, and I think my personal and professional experiences give me a unique skill set that I hope would serve Custer County well.
Corey Lee, District 2. As a former EMT for the city of Broken Bow for about 16 years, I served our community in that capacity. I got to the point where I couldn't do that anymore, and I find this was an opportunity for me to continue to serve my neighbors and our citizens of Broken Bow in a capacity that I could still do. You could call it civic duty if you want. I would just like to continue to serve the residents of Custer County.
Webb, District 2. I am currently on the board, and the reason that I first ran, we was out in the country, and my children went to a Class 1 school, and I was on that school board, and then there were some changes being made, and then I got interested in the county level, and I ran for that, and so I served out in District 1. When we moved to town, I had to resign because I moved out of my district. And we lived in town, and then when Mr. Hickenbottom retired from being on the board, I was approached and asked if I would consider. And so that's how I'm on the board. And I don't really know that I have an agenda, but I really like serving the county, and I feel like I'm available to listen to people and talk to them. And I go to a lot of the continuing education classes that are offered for us, and so I would just like to have another term, and I hope you vote for Tammy Club. Thank you.
James Markham, District 4. The reason I threw my name in the hat, because I've been on the village board in Myrna for 10 years. I've been chairman for 8, and I've served the people up there what I think is pretty well. I think a lot of people, if you ask them up there, if they have a problem or anything, I listen to them, I go fix it. And so I decided to go a little higher up and go county-wise and try to help the county out instead of just a town. So I think I can bring a lot to the table with the business that I ran, buying equipment and everything that the county does. I've been pretty well involved with patching streets and everything. If we don't have a maintenance man, I'm the guy that went out and done it. So, but that's part of being on the board. You got to take care of things. So that's the reason I wanted to throw my hat in for the county. So.
Thank you. Andrew, you are up, and Janet, you're up.
Custer is a larger than average county, which means a lot of county roads, a lot of miles of county roads to take care of. Are there any changes you would like to see in how the county maintains its roads? And if so, what changes?
Well, I was at the county meeting, Jan Dobish, District 4. I was at the county meeting when they discussed the 1-year strategic plan and the 6-year strategic plan for Custer County. I think this is probably one of the most important and probably most sensitive issues that the county has to deal with. I don't feel I can really give you something concrete to say how I would change anything, other than when it comes time to make those decisions, I'm going to be asking questions, I'm going to be doing my research, and I will make the best decision that I can in regard to spending those tax dollars and keeping our county roads and bridges, which we have 744 in Custer County, up to good shape.
Corey Clay, District 2. I know county roads is a hot topic. I also know from my days as an EMT, a patient in the back of an ambulance going over some of these county roads is quite painful. I would like to see them be taken care of a little better than they currently are, but I also know that due to budgets, trying to keep taxes low, materials are getting more and more expensive every year, right along with the equipment needed to maintain those. We just need to prioritize our resources and use them the best that we can.
District 2. Custer County is a large county, and we have a lot of bridges. The bridges, I will say that we have been very active in a state aid program for federal funding, which has helped replace a lot of bridges and for the funding, so that's helped us as taxpayers. The roads, when a lot of these roads were oiled, we didn't have the semis and the big tractors going over them, you guys. My dad used to be the highway superintendent, and I remember back when these roads were oiled, we had a straight truck that we hauled the corn to town, and the machinery has got bigger, and the roads, they can't hold up with all the equipment the way it's grown. So I guess what we're trying to focus on now, instead of oiling as many roads, the ones that we do, let's do it right. Let's not just put a Band-Aid on it. We're gonna have to add a little thicker and do it, and the hot mix holds up better than the cold mix. So that's what we're trying to work on now, but Custer County is a large county. Thank you.
James Markham, District 4. The 1 and 6 year plan, you use that for all your roads like we do in Myrna and stuff, but you know, the unfortunate deal, Myrna's the same way. I mean, you got so many tax dollars for roads to put in and stuff, and you try to do the best, and you gotta hit the bad spots and work on them, the ones that are the worst, and I think that's kind of what we gotta focus on the county. But that 1 and 6 year plan, as Tammy would know, that you gotta use that to the best and use your state money, but there's a lot of roads in Custer County, and that's one of the biggest issues that I've heard people talk to me about. And you know, when I get on the board, we're just got to get all of our heads together and work together and try and get something going to save the tax dollars, but yeah, maybe get some better roads. So,
Maureen Hunsberger, District 4. I also know roads are a hot topic, as everyone's saying. When I said I was going to run, I've already been approached by 2 people asking, well, 3 actually, asking about roads and asking about their road and you know, if it's going to be repaired and the speed limit on the road even. So I know roads are a hot topic. I grew up in the country on a county road. Gravel's a huge issue, the tax, you know, how much money you have, you know, there's only so much money to put into these roads. I get it's a sensitive topic. I guess if I'm on the board, the best I can do is listen to the experts. I am not an expert on this. Listen, make good decisions, work together with the rest of the board to make the best decision for the tax dollars. What we've got, the grants, these are things that if I'm elected, I have to learn about. You know, we have an orientation. I don't have all the answers today. What I'd have to do is just make the best decision with the information that I get.
Thank you. Mona, you will ask next. Corey, you are up first.
Okay, some of this information we wanted to put in here too so the public could hear it. Hopefully I have it correct. The annual salary for a Custer County supervisor is $26,061 per year. And the premium, if you take individual insurance, is paid. If a supervisor does not take insurance, they receive $450 cash in lieu. Comes to about $30,000 if you take the cash. In comparison, I think I'm correct here, state senators are paid $12,000. And I'm not sure about their insurance. County supervisors get to vote on their own pay raises. State senator pay goes to a vote before the people. So, I don't know what's possible. I printed this recommendations for county officials out just before the meeting, haven't had a chance to look at it. But if you are elected, what is your opinion of implementing possible penalty deductions if supervisors don't attend meetings, and the consideration of putting future pay raises before voters of Custer County rather than before the board?
Corey Clay, District 2. I would agree with penalties if you are not making meetings. You are there, or we are there to serve you, not ourselves. And if you can't be at that meeting, you're not helping anybody. And I do not have a problem with you doing that vote if we get a raise or not. I don't have a problem with that. It's only right. It's your money that's being spent.
Tammy Clabb, District 2. I think that wage is set by resolution every 4 years, and the handbook, or the thing you sent out, is what is suggested. And I think, and I'm not saying that that's good or bad, but Custer County is under from what is suggested. And for the statute, for attending meetings, I think that's covered through statute. I don't think you can do anything to someone who does not attend. I think there are certain meetings you have to attend, but it's by statute. I don't know if you can change that.
So being on the village board in Myrna, when I got on there 10 years ago, we had some people that didn't show up to meetings at all. I mean, and they still got a paycheck. And you know what we get? $200 every 3 months. And I said, hey, wait a minute. If these guys ain't gonna come, so we made a resolution not to pay them if they miss more than two meetings in the 3 month period. So we got that done, and I'm a sole believer that I think the people of the county ought to vote on the wages, because if you're getting on the board for the wages, then you're probably not getting on it for the right reason. Okay. I got on the Myrna board because I was born and raised there, and when it snows and we don't have a maintenance man, I go out and clear the streets. I still get $200 every 3 months. So I'm a firm believer that if the people in the county can't vote on that kind of thing, well, I don't think it's right. So.
Maureen Hunsberger, District 4. Listening to Tammy talk about statute, I guess as far as penalties for missing meetings, it's something that has to be looked at with their statutes and things of that nature. I've been on board where you have people who don't show up, and there's few people doing the bulk of the work, and the other people are showing up, and it is very frustrating. So if something can be done about that, changing that, I would be all for it, because it's going to take every single supervisor to get the job done. A few cannot do the job. So I'd be in favor of that, and yes, absolutely, let people vote on the wage. I would have no problem with that.
Jan Dobish, District 4. I'm perfectly fine with letting the taxpayers decide what the wage will be for the supervisors. Regarding missed meetings, I think it kind of opens up a whole can of worms. Are you gonna, and especially where there's a state statute, but are you gonna have unexcused absences, and how do you define that? So that, to me, opens up a whole can of worms. Just in the few meetings I've been to, I haven't seen absences as a problem. That doesn't mean it hasn't been a problem in the past. I'm willing to look at that sort of a thing and make the best decision I can based on the information that I learn.
Okay, so Mr. Brent, you are up, and we are back to Tammy starting.
Okay, another question that was submitted by the public, and it is phrased this way. What are your thoughts on keeping local government accessible and able to offer services locally?
I am always for local government. I think that that is better, that we keep it local. We know our needs better than someone else on another end of the state. I'm all for local government, and we're approachable. You can approach the people and talk to them about the needs, and I think local government's the way to go.
James Markham, District 4. Yes, I think local government, we need it, and we need to keep it here. And for the local government also needs to be behind the businesses around here too. It's the businesses that make this area, and we all got to get behind everybody in order to make this work. Like I said before, we're gonna have some trying times ahead of us, and it's gonna be trying. So. The more we can get behind people, and the more people can get behind the local government, I just think it's a better deal. So,
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, the question is this. What are your thoughts on keeping local government accessible and able to offer services locally?
Okay. Maureen Hunsberger, District 4. I agree, local government is the best way to go. We know what we need. As far as keeping them accessible, I'm trying to understand what that person is asking in that question. Transparency, keeping things accessible, I think our county is. I go online and I use their website all the time. I go online, I read the minutes. As far as us being accessible, I think all the supervisors are accessible. If I'm voted in, I would be accessible to talk to and for any concerns. But yeah, the money, local money should stay with local decisions.
Jan Dobish, District 4. Absolutely, local government is very important. We know more about what we need than individuals to the east of us. And accessibility, I think that means as a county supervisor that you're willing to put the time in outside of a meeting to do the research that you need to do, and you're also willing to be a listener. I think the most angry person, if they feel like they're listened to, you can have a civil conversation and come to an agreement.
Corey Clay, District 2. Local government, who better knows what we need than people from here? We need to keep it that way. As far as accessibility, yes, local government needs to be accessible because we are here to do what you want, not what we want. And as a former business owner downtown for 15 years, we're all in this together. And we can't survive without being together and keeping things local. We just have to do that.
Thank you. That is our last round, correct? But what we're going to do is you're each going to get 60 seconds, and we're going to start at this end of the table first. and also why you want their vote. Can you get that in 60 seconds?
Can I look at my notes?
Okay. I gotta go back and see.
Corey Clay, District 2. I am currently the Deputy Emergency Manager for Custer County. I also serve as the 911 dispatcher. I forgot the question now. I got that part.
Why do you want their vote?
I would like your vote because, as I stated earlier, I want to serve my neighbors and the citizens around me, and I want to help you run this county the way you want it.
Jan Dobish, District 4. I'm going to use some of my notes. I'm running for this office because I believe I have my professional and personal life, again, has given me a unique skill set. I was an employee at Custer Power for 13 years. I ran a mental health practice for 30 years, and I was also an employer in that practice. So that gives me some experience on both sides of that issue. I have the ability to work with a lot of different types of personalities. I'm willing to listen to all sides of an issue. I will not shy away from making hard decisions. I also understand that I will not have all the answers, but I am willing to put in the time in order to reach the best decision. If elected, I'm willing to invest my time and energy outside of county meetings in order to serve the public, the people of Custer County. Thank you.
Maureen Hunsberger, District 4. What I do, I own Ideal Realty. I'm a real estate agent. I'm the broker and the owner. I'm also part owner of M&M Electric and part owner of Hunsberger Rentals. So, variety of things, you know, a lot of construction background with my husband's business because he made me wire when he started his business because he couldn't find help. And the real estate side of it, you know, doing property management. So why I want your vote, I would like to serve the people of District 4 in Custer County. I think with my experience with what I've done for a living, I've worked with all different types of people. Also, I've worked with people in high emotion situations because sometimes purchasing a home is the most money you're ever going to spend, and emotions will run high. So I've come to I've gotten a lot of experience with that. Okay, thank you.
James Markham, District 4. I ran a successful concrete business, which I sold a couple years ago. And I had several employees that I worked with, and I worked with a lot of people in Custer County. I'm on the Myrna board right now. I've been on it for 10 years. I've been the chairman for 8, and been pretty successful at that, as what we've done in the town. And I've done several things. I got several businesses. We're owner in Dairy Queen. We're owner in Cobblestone, Borders. I got cattle. I've done a lot in this county, got land. Anyway, I guess I would like your vote because I think I can go on there and I can work for you, and I will go the extra mile for you. And the other reason I want your vote is I'm not a politician, I'm a businessman. Thank you.
Tammy Clabb, District 2. I guess for number 1, I have experience, and I have always been available, and I will continue being available to the taxpayer and to all the residents of Custer County. I'm a lifetime resident of Custer County, so I have a lot of love here. I love this county, I love this area. And this is my main job. I can focus on serving you, and I will be available to go to all of the continuing education classes and stuff that I can attend. And right now I'm on the budget committee, and so we'll have a budget workshop coming up, and I do attend all those. So please, I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
I think we all owe them a round of applause.
I think there should have been something else today.
We're going to make a quick change, and forward, and I forgot to shut my timer off. But anyway, thanks, guys.
While we're making the change, some of you may have noticed that one supervisor candidate isn't here. Ray Hunt had a previous commitment. He had to be out of town. That's why he is not here.
Four.
Good to see you again.
We're gonna just have you introduce yourself and tell us what you do. Then the questions will be asked. We'll go in 1, 2, 3 questions. Then we're gonna have a yes/no round. And it strictly is a yes/no. No explanation. You'll have an opportunity when we are all done if you want to make anything more clear on that, okay? So we will start going left to right. So you will answer the first question, and you'll answer the second, and then you'll start, okay? And we'll go down the line just like we did. And each of the news media has 3 questions each to ask you. So introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and then we'll go forward, okay?
My name is,
You gotta hold it for a second or two.
we on?
You got that?
Right on.
Okay. Make sure it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Tony Tangwall. I'm from Whitney, Nebraska, where I currently am married to the most beautiful woman in the state of Nebraska. She's back there. Been married 34 years, have 3 beautiful children, 4 beautiful grandchildren. We farm and ranch there, as well as own a small business in town. And then we also pastor the Spirit of Faith Church in Shadrach. So that's just a little bit of what we do and what we're about. We're glad to be here tonight. Look forward to talking to you folks. A lot of times you come and hear us talk, and really dialogue starts with me hearing you talk.
And we'll give you a chance to finish that later. Just wait your name and what you're doing.
Okay.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening. My name is Tanya Storr. My husband and I live over north of Whitman, Nebraska. So we live in Cherry County. The number 1 cow county, I might add, but Custer was number 2, and I heard Holt's trying to steal that place, so we got to work on that. I grew up in Cherry County and moved back with my husband in 1990, and that's what we do. We are cow-calf in the cow-calf operation and attempt to make a living raising cattle.
Thank you. You will have 90 seconds to answer each question. Andrew, you are up.
All right. School funding continues to be an issue in the state with the current TIOSA formula and its role in the property tax issue, as well as the recent passage by the legislature of LB 1402, which provides state funding for private school scholarships. The question is, what changes would you like to make in how our state schools are funded?
Yeah, TIOSA is a really interesting thing. It's been around for 34 years, and it's been changed 36 times. And I don't know if anything in your life works like that, but I would consider that probably not the best option. And so I believe that the money that we pay for educating our children should follow the children. I was really glad to hear when I was down here a couple weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago, you're starting a Christian school. There's a Christian school already here in town, and I'm glad to hear that they're going to start another Christian school. Education begins with our children. It begins with their parents. And so if we're going to fund this public school system the way we're doing it, by demanding that people get involved, then the parents should have the right to say who's going to teach their children, and the money that they've paid into the system needs to go with where their children are being educated.
Can you repeat the question?
The question was, what changes would you like to make in how our state schools are funded?
Absolutely. So I did a little bit of homework just on Broken Bow on TIOSA, and this is just a snapshot of what that formula has done or not done for our rural districts. So in 2012, Broken Bow School District was getting $2.3 million. In 2022, they were getting $104,000. And so that is the direction that TIOSA formula has been historically and unfavorable to our rural districts. A big piece of that is the way we value those districts. It's on total valuation. That's the ability to pay portion of your formula, and the needs portion is how many students you have to educate. And so in rural Nebraska, our ag land prices have went up, and we continue to struggle to keep population. One of the things that I've tossed out when I served on the Farm Bureau Board, and I would like to continue to explore, is how we value that district. And so the way that system is set up is unfairly burdening agriculture in particular because it's such a capital-intensive business. If we can start looking at the valuation piece for the formula purpose only, as residential values only, that doesn't mean all the ag land is not available to be levied on and taxed, but just to determine that TIOSA formula, because everyone lives in a house, whether you're in Omaha or Broken Bow or Whitman. I think that would be a direction to start equaling out that formula and not overburdening one industry over another and getting that state aid redistributed back out here in a more equitable manner.
Thank you. Mona, you will ask the next one, and Tanya, you will answer it, please.
This is a big topic. Do what you can in 90 seconds with the EPIC tax option. Do you support it, oppose it, why or why not?
90 seconds. I, more than anyone, want to see property tax relief. I think all of us in this room would agree with that. And so I've spent some time studying EPIC, attended the meetings, talked with Senator Erdman, and at the end of the day, we just got done talking about TIOSA, and I gave you a snapshot of what the funding changes for Broken Bow have been over the last 10 years. Under the EPIC tax system, what you would see is giving all the state, the same body, the same 49 senators who have reduced the amount of money they're sending out here to rural school systems would now have the opportunity to determine everything. We would lose all local control, and the senators, the 49 senators in Lincoln would be determining your county budget, your school budget, your fire board, your NRD, and go down the list. It would be the biggest consolidation of power the state has ever seen. And if anyone trusts Lincoln, then I would say support EPIC. If you think Lincoln has treated us fairly up to this point, support EPIC. We need to, and I don't, and so we need to keep that control local and work on the areas that are affecting our property tax problem, which primarily is the way we fund our school systems.
Yeah, so I'm a supporter of the EPIC tax option, but I need to remind you of this. It's a ballot initiative, and so it's up to the people right now what they want to do with that. But I would remind you of this. When I hear someone say that they're against the EPIC tax, and there's a lot of people that talk like that, I would remind you of this, that we live in a state that right now is a pure democracy. Because we have a unicameral system, we are run by a democracy, okay? And that's called mob rule. So the mob is in the eastern part of the state. So all of you that are against the EPIC tax option, I would encourage one of you to go get a ballot initiative started so that we can do away with the unicameral and go back with the bicameral so we can have some control. But when we talk about the EPIC tax, the first thing that comes to my mind is liberty. Do you own anything? Our founding fathers founded this nation on a principle of private ownership of property. If we're going to live the American dream, then we've got to use the same formula that our founding fathers dealt with, and that is liberty. Can you own anything? Can you pass it down to your children? Are they ever going to generate wealth? And so it's about liberty. And so when people say, well, it's a new idea, well, so is liberty. And so I would encourage you to stir something up inside of you as an American to say, you know what, we should go back to the principles that made this country the greatest nation on earth in a very short period of time. That formula, we talk about formulas all the time, was life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Brent, you
Once again, my questions were submitted by the public, and this was one of their questions for the both of you. What do you believe is the biggest threat to farmers and ranchers in Nebraska, and your thoughts about addressing that threat?
Tony, you are first.
The biggest threat facing farmers and ranchers is the biggest threat facing everyone in this room. Regulation and taxation put together equal strangulation. We are being strangled in this state. As we travel all over the 43rd district, the bad news is this, that rural Nebraska is dying. And it's not the people's fault, because the people are full of life. But I've just heard in Crawford, Nebraska, our grocery store just closed. Hay Springs, the grocery store just closed. We are losing our rural communities. And it all boils back to the regulation that's put on people, the taxation. We are an oppressed people. We've got to set people free, because you folks are the greatest producers of wealth the world's ever known. And so we've got to fight these things, regulation and taxation.
Yeah, we're facing a multitude of challenges in agriculture, and it's coming at us from various directions. And at the top of the list, government overreach. So we're seeing that not just on a state level, but primarily a federal level. And one of the examples I would give you is the Biden administration's 30 by 30 plan to put 30% of our land and water resources into permanent protection by 2030. Really, that means government control. So we're looking at federal overreach from a variety of ways. WOTUS, so we fought WOTUS back under the Trump administration, and Biden is trying to put those regulations back into place that would control your mud puddles, quite frankly, and on your farm property. And so we're constantly fighting that federal regulation. I was proud to have worked with Governor Ricketts when he was governor to fight and push back on the 30 by 30, and he signed an executive order helping to protect Nebraska. One of the second biggest things is the animal rights activists, and we continue to see that. They haven't went away. And right now in Colorado, in the city of Denver, they're trying to pass a law that they would not be able to have any processing within the city limits. That would be a lamb processing facility right now, but that's just the beginning. And so we don't want to be dismissive of what they're doing just because it's Colorado and just because it's lambs. We need to understand that we have to stop those things there. We're constantly fighting the lack of education in this country, and that results in animal activism. So we need to push back.
Okay, so now Brent is going to ask, we have 2 yes or no questions. So first, Tanya, you will answer it, and then Tony, you will say, and then Brent will ask you another question, or then Tony's first and Tanya's second.
Okay, and again, the majority of these come from the public. They want to know, do you stand for or against transgenders in school sports and the sharing of bathrooms?
Against.
Against.
Okay. The next one, do you support term limits for the Nebraska Legislature?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So next up, Mona, you asked the first question, correct? Am I keeping track?
I have the candidate-specific questions.
No, you had another question.
No.
You don't have another question?
No.
Okay. So we're going to bypass you and let Brent go next, and then Andrew, and then you. You know, we didn't all get the office now. So Brent is going to ask, and Tanya, we're going to have you go first, and then Tony second.
Okay, another question from the public. Where do you stand on the competing ballot initiatives regarding abortion?
This is a good question and something that we all need to be very aware of. Right now, Nebraska is literally in a fight for our life. The pro-abortion movement has a ballot initiative out called Protect Our Rights. It's very deceptive. What they're trying to do is to get it enshrined in the Nebraska State Constitution that people would, in essence, have a abortion on demand. The decisions that are within that constitutional amendment would be determined by the abortionist. It would eliminate everything that we've worked hard in this state to do to protect life. So the pro-life movement has come up with a plan to combat that and their own ballot initiative, which is Protect Women and Children. And what that ballot initiative would do was enshrine into our Constitution that we would put a ceiling on protecting the rights of unborn children at the point we are at today, that we fought hard to put limits on 12 weeks as your rights to abortion. It would also allow for those exceptions in the case of medical emergency to the mother and rape and incest. It does not prohibit the legislature, however, from continuing to roll that back. And a few years ago, last year, we talked about the heartbeat bill, which is really when life begins. And so I would say I'm a pro-life candidate. I believe all life is precious from the moment of conception till the moment you take your last breath. And encourage people to get more educated and get out and get people to sign the Protect Women and Children ballot initiative.
Obviously, the abortion issue in this country is a hot topic. But if you would think back to what your grandparents and what your great-grandparents believed and realize what is truth and what is right and what is wrong, life begins at conception. There's no society on this planet that's ever survived doing what we do as a nation, and that is killing its unborn and not honoring its elders. So we are fast approaching a crisis point in this nation where we will have put to death babies. Our society is dying. And so basically it's this. In my mind and what I believe the Word of God teaches me is that abortion is there would be one reason for an abortion, and that would be for the life of the mother. And we've got all sorts of formulas and all sorts of weeks and all sorts of times. But when a life comes into this earth, and there's a lot of things that are in our day and age that are evil, but it's amazing to me that abortion and rape is the only crime where the evidence is destroyed. And so we need to protect these unborn children. They're innocent, and they are gifts from God.
All right, Andrew, and I think Tony will ask the question first. Answer the question first. Thank you.
All right. Access to quality, affordable health care is often a major challenge in rural areas, particularly for our elderly. How will you help to make sure residents of the district can get the care they need, both for themselves and for their loved ones?
The first thing that we need to do for care for the elderly is to remember that the best place for the elderly is to be with their children or their grandchildren. And so we need to honor those households that take care of the elderly, and we've been involved with that all of my adult life. It's a great privilege to do. But for those people that don't have that opportunity, we need to remember one thing. I was talking to Sally up at Cherry Hills Assisted Living. We need to remember one thing, that people died in the Cherry Hills facility because of the COVID mandates that came down from the federal government and our state went along with. So let's not forget that. When you talk about taking care of people, let's remind ourselves that we will stand up against the overreach with mandates that said people had to stay in their home, stay in their room. People died. And so the other thing that we need to remember that, we also need to build facilities across this district. The private sector can answer that question if we would let the private sector have the freedom to do it. Remove the tax burden so private entities can build homes where people can live lives in dignity and honor. This is not a hard thing. It's difficult to do under the circumstances right now, but if the state would just would facilitate an environment where the private sector could step in, we could take care of these folks.
I think I've put 16,000 miles on my pickup in the last 2.5 months, and much of that has been being very intentional about visiting the nursing home facilities, the assisted care facilities across this district. We are on the brink of a healthcare crisis called really a care desert. We could refer to it that way. Valentine lost their nursing home, Mullen has lost their nursing home, and I want to know why. And I have gotten a few answers, and some of which we can do something about in the state legislature, some of which we cannot. But when you talk about the gap between the Medicaid reimbursement rate in the state of Nebraska and the actual cost of caring for those individuals in the facilities, we're not there yet. We haven't bridged that gap. And so the legislature did approve an increase this year. We made progress, but we're not there yet. The other thing that was horrifying to me is more of a regulatory issue, and it's within the Department of Health and Human Services. The Health and Human Services is holding the purse strings on the number of beds that they're telling us that we can have available for that care in the whole state of Nebraska. And every time a sick care facility closes, after they've been closed for 2 years, those beds just evaporate, vanish. And so we've got to address that within the Department of Health and Human Services. That starts with working with our governor, who hires the director of DHHS. So that is an archaic regulation that should be driven by the free market, quite frankly. So those are a couple things we need to do.
Okay, media, because you're confusing me. Mona, are you going next? No, Brent. Okay, Brent, you're up, and Tanya will answer first.
I'm shy.
Yes, she's shy, and obviously our desks are too far apart to know what each other's doing. So, okay.
All right, I believe that this next round is again just yes or no.
Yes.
So the first of those yes or no questions, would you support or not support Nebraska becoming a sanctuary state?
I would not support that.
I would not support that.
Okay. And the next one, do you support or oppose the proposition to make Nebraska a winner-take-all with electoral votes?
Mr. Tango, you're first.
I would go with what the Republican Party wanted to do on that.
It's a yes or no, support or no support. So you will not support, or you will support?
I would support whatever the Republican Party wants to do.
Okay.
I would support that.
Okay, so now we start all over with your last question, right? Is that correct? Okay, so we're going to let Brent go first. We're going to work down the opposite way, and Tanya, you will be first to answer.
All right. One more question that comes from the public. How can we fund local government entities while encouraging responsible spending to reduce local property taxes, yet retain local control?
And I'm first. So the system that we have in place right now, your local elected boards are in charge of levying the dollars based on the property valuations in your district. So the property tax dollars that are levied by school boards, county boards, your NRDs, those stay within those bodies. Those don't go to Lincoln. So we need to protect their ability to do that. Local control is vital to the survival of our communities. And I heard it said up here before, and I couldn't agree more, local knows best. We also have to be aware at a state level that every entity across the state is not equally responsible as we are out here in rural Nebraska. And just an example, I think the legislature gave school districts last year over $320 million with the understanding that would allow them to reduce the levy and give some property tax relief, yet property taxes went up by $84 million. And so that kind of gives us a signal that maybe there does need to be a ceiling. We need to have some hard ceiling where the people then need to approve anything that goes above and beyond that. And so those are some of my thoughts on making sure we have local control, but also protecting the taxpayer and the voter, that when we reach a ceiling, the voters need to kick in and approve those increases.
Most of what we talked about tonight, us up here in the first panel, it's about money. If I came to your household tonight and analyzed your household and your problems, most of it would come to money. But you're the only ones, and we're the only ones that when we talk about our money, the first thing that we have to talk about is not how can we just get more, but what do we do with what we have? And how are we spending money? Somebody's got to go line by line. We have 95 government agencies or entities in this state. That's more than we have counties. Someone's got to go line for line and have the guts and the backbone to say, you know what, I really don't think we need to be spending money on this. I mean, you do that at home for yourselves. You do that at your businesses, you do that at your farm, you do that at your ranch. You say, you know what, we just can't buy $7 coffees. We got to go home and drink Maxwell House for 50 cents. Okay? It's amazing. It's just curious to me that all of a sudden, that at the state level or at the local level, we just don't start there. I talked to Senator Steve Urban. He says that doesn't even go through their minds in Lincoln, how to save money or how to cut things. And so someone needs to go down there and say, hey, we just can't spend that money on that. We got to finalize and prioritize what government is actually put in place to do. And I would propose to you that there's a lot of things going on in the state of Nebraska that government has no business spending money on.
Okay, you want to be up, Mona, finally?
I thought you wanted my questions last.
Okay, so Andrew's going to come next, and we are going to start with Tony. Thank you.
So we hear this term economic development frequently. It's a big topic with a lot of connected issues, whether it's broadband access, housing, recruiting workers, keeping people here, a lot of other things. So if you could nail down what you think is the most important thing that the legislature needs to do to help support the economies of our small towns across the district.
Economic development is something that every politician has been promising you for 50 years, and they haven't delivered it because they don't know how to do it. If my grandson was out in the parking lot tonight cutting all catalytic converters off of your cars and throwing them in the back of my pickup, I would have developed an economy. It wouldn't be moral and it wouldn't be right. So economic development is a strange term to me. You are the economic developers in this county and in this state. If we set you free from the oppressive taxation and the oppressive regulation, you've all got an idea of something you'd like to create or invent or you'd like to expand. You say, you're just Johnny One Note. Well, that's the point. People are the greatest economic developers in this country. We don't want to just develop an economy, we want to develop wealth. I ask you this, are you better at developing wealth than your grandparents were? Are you in a better position than your great-grandparents were? It's slipping away from us very quickly. And we hover around all these issues and we don't get down to the actual problem. And that is setting people free. Give you back your rights, give you back your liberty so you can do what you're good at. Because you're all good at what God put into your heart to do. We've got the best farmers, got the best ranchers, got the best restaurants, concrete guys, whatever. I'm glad I'm sitting in the Dairy Queen seat. I'm going to go find that guy today. That's a great economy right there, okay? Sets you free.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. What do you think is the most important thing the legislature needs to do to help support the economies of our small towns across the district?
Absolutely. On a broad scale, I would say deregulation, but I'm going to get more specific. And one of the things I've heard from Dawes County all the way to Boyd County here in Custer County is workforce, access to employees, and the challenges of every business, whether it's in agriculture or industry or retail, or people being able to hire folks. And I am discovering more and more that the barriers, one of the barriers to that is access to childcare. As I have tried to learn about what are those barriers for childcare, first of all, I will say that there is some good news happening. There's some childcare facilities opening across this district. Ainsworth has recently opened one. They're going to have a ribbon cutting in Burwell on a new childcare facility. So there's some good things happening that we need to talk about. But one of those barriers that I think the state can address to help expedite more available childcare is to look at some possibilities for waivers of those regulations, over-regulations that are in place that are specific. If there's an opportunity to have a child care facility within a hospital, can there not be a waiver for some of the medical requirements and training for those providers? If we have an opportunity to open a daycare attached to a nursing home or attached as part of the school or close to the school, a waiver for some of the requirements. If somebody has a teaching degree, do they also really need to have an early childhood education degree? So we need to apply some common sense, look at places that it makes sense to provide waivers and open those opportunities up.
We have one more yes or no question, right?
We can, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, one more as far as yes or no. LB 1375 has been described by some as a way to ease the permitting process of livestock feeding operations. Some believe it would take away power from local and county planning and zoning commissions processes. Are you for or against the reduction of local and county zoning commissions?
Tanya first, for or against?
For the commissions or the board?
I would assume board, yes.
I'm going to say I'm for that, and I'll come back and explain it later.
I'm not familiar with the wording of LB 1375, so I'm gonna just tell you, you'd have to ask me that later. I'll investigate it.
Okay, Mona is up next, and I've lost track, but I think Tanya is up first.
Yes. Testing. All right, we're on. And I apologize for the slight confusion. My questions, I have one question for each of you, and they're different. And we had talked about leaving these to last, so that's what we're doing. So, Candidate Storer. As a member of the Cherry County Board of Commissioners, you were taken to court by Preserve the Sandhills LLC and Charlene Reiser McCormick for conflict of interest on building wind turbines in Cherry County. It's been said that you and your family financially benefited from supporting wind energy. Tell us of your family's involvement with the proposed project, whether or not you individually benefited, and where you stand on wind energy today.
In 90 seconds? Yeah, so yes, when I served on the Cherry County Board of Commissioners, we had a wind energy permit come before us. The irony is I had family members, not that I was in business with, but a brother, two brothers actually, that were involved in the project. I submitted everything, practically told them with the names of their dogs, submitted everything to the NADC, really honestly hoping that the NADC would tell me not to vote because it was a terribly controversial issue. NADC came back and said you have no conflict because I was not in business with any of them. I personally, or nor my husband, had anything to gain from that proposal. So as we move forward, that went to the district court. The district court supported what the NADC did, and in essence, they said, listen, if you don't vote, Cherry County can't move forward and do their business. And so I was elected to do a job. So I had to put on my big girl pants and do my job, knowing that it would face controversy, but knowing also that we went through all of the legal and regulatory requirements that were asked of us. Yes, we were sued 3 times, and if you look at what they're doing to Trump right now, it's not much different. It's an incredibly liberal tactic when someone is upset with you to just keep throwing lawsuits at somebody. Each of those lawsuits went to the Nebraska Supreme Court and were dismissed because Cherry County handled things in a lawful manner. We are a republic, not a democracy, and that is based on the rule of law, and it is vitally important that we respect that, we respect the process, and we protect individual rights. Time, I guess, yeah. I could talk about that for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, Candidate Tangwall. You filed for state legislative office on January 26th. At that time, you had $8,616.67 in delinquent Nebraska state property taxes. That amount was paid 2 weeks later on February 9th. During your campaign launch on February 17th, you spoke of back income taxes in the neighborhood of $30,000 state and $100,000 federal. As a candidate for an office that's paid for by tax dollars and is also responsible for determining how Nebraska tax dollars are allocated, if you would tell us the status of your state and federal taxes, and knowing that you filed for office while your taxes were delinquent, why should voters trust you to be a good steward of their tax dollars?
I'm glad you asked this question, Mona. So we paid our property taxes of, what do you say, $8,000. We paid it when we got the money. And you can do that in this state. We still are, as she said, a republic. And so sometimes you just have to pay it when you get it. As far as the income tax, or the state income tax, and the federal income tax, my wife got cancer in 2011. And when she got cancer in 2011, everything goes sideways really quick. And so we had to sell some real estate and sell some cattle. And so what that did was it produced a tax liability to the state of Nebraska and to the federal government. And so what we did, like many of you have done, you find every opportunity that the government gives you to take care of that situation. And so we did. And so we talked to the state of Nebraska and asked them if we could do anything to relieve that. And they said no, which I thought was pretty sad because everybody's been telling me the state has a bushel basket full of money. And so they set us up on a payment plan. And when you don't have any money, the payment plan at $1,000 a month is pretty stiff, but my wife and I paid it. We paid that $1,000 a month for 32 months. Paid that through COVID. As far as the income tax to the federal government, we have made a deal with them and they wrote that off because of a hardship. That's what we do in this country, because we are a government of, by, and for the people. And so just make that very clear. Tony Tangwall is not a tax cheat. Tax cheats don't file. Thank you.
Okay, so, we actually thought it was going to take over 90 minutes to get through all this, and we're under budget, you guys. How do you like that? But, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend my timer, give you 3 minutes each on closing remarks. Do you guys object to that? Okay, so let me go back and reset my timer. And we'll start with Mr. Tangwell, and we will have 3 minutes on closing remarks, starting when you start speaking.
So I asked my wife the other day, do you think have we come to the point in this country, are we post-liberty? How do we view things? Do we view everything by dollars and cents? What is the prism through which we view things? How do we strain every idea that we have? When we started to run for this position, we came up with 5 words that matter: liberty, life, law, livelihood, and a legacy. If we don't get the first 4 correct, we will not have an opportunity at the 5th. What we leave our children and our grandchildren matters. I'm not looking for another job. I'm not looking for another title. I've got some titles that are really good and really mean a lot to me. My wife calls me Bud. And when she calls me Bud, I'm not even going to tell you how I react to that. My children call me Dad, my grandchildren call me Papa, and the people that attend the church I pastor call me Pastor. Those are 4 titles that mean a lot to me, so I don't need a title of state senator. But I also realize this, that my grandchildren deserve better than what's coming down the line for them. Carson, Asher, Adeline, and Callan deserve better. The measure of a man is not what he inherited. The measure of a man is what he leaves for an inheritance. The greatest inheritance that we can leave for our children is a godly legacy and a legacy of liberty. Because if we don't leave liberty, there's only one thing that takes the place of liberty, and that's tyranny. And we are not that far away from that. And so we're willing to go to Lincoln and do a job. This is not a campaign to get Tony Tangwall to the legislature. It's a campaign to get the legislature back to the 43rd district. It's a campaign to remind the people in Lincoln that just because you can't see it from the Capitol doesn't mean it doesn't matter. And we want to represent you. We don't want to go represent principles. We want to represent people in a principled manner. That's why we're here. It's not for the $12,000. It's for the opportunity to make things better for our children and for our grandchildren, so that the state that is known as the good life can actually become the great life and be a part of making America what she once was, And that was the greatest nation on this planet.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for organizing the event tonight. I think these are sometimes the most helpful way for you to learn more about the candidates, and so I appreciate the opportunity to come and do this with you. I kind of developed three pillars as I moved into the campaign to help explain what I believe in as well, and it's family, freedom, and future. And so I'm gonna sort of bring things back to those three things. Family is the core unit of any civilized society. We have got to protect our traditional family values. We have got to push back against things like transgenderism, where biological males have the opportunity to enter into female bathrooms. That's wrong. If you're born a biological male versus a biological female, that determines a lot of things, including which restrooms you use, which locker rooms you use, and which sports you get to compete in. And I was horrified that the legislature was unable to pass a bill to clarify that this year. Life. We need to protect life. I believe in limited government, but one of the things that government is clearly responsible for, because our Bill of Rights starts with the word life, we have a responsibility to protect all life, from conception to death, natural death. Education is a big part of our family unit as well, and making sure that the State Department of Education does not continue to march down this road of indoctrination of our children. We need to get back to a academic-focused educational system in the state of Nebraska. Social issues do not belong in the curriculum of public education. Taxes are burdensome on all families, but when it's burdening your family, it then turns and burdens the businesses as well. So I am a fiscal conservative, and that was demonstrated in my 8 years as a Cherry County Commissioner, where we reduced taxes by 17%. Yes, we reduced taxes. It's possible. Can you do that forever? No. We are facing inflationary costs, but there are ways to trim the fat. Freedom. This country was built on the concept of limited government and keeping government in their lane, and it was built on the concept of protecting individual rights. Government is not here to give you your rights. Government is here to protect your rights, and every decision I would make would go through that very lens. That includes property rights. You don't have to own land to have property rights. You have a property right in your healthcare decisions. You have a property right in your job and a variety of other things. It is fundamental to our freedom. And all of those things are going to play into all of our futures. We have got to start. A lot of times people are like, what are your goals? Well, my goal is to stop the growth of government. That's a realistic goal. We're not going to get out of this mess overnight, because we didn't get in it overnight. But we've got to at least push pause. We've got to stop the growth of government.
And we have time.
Thank you.
Well, number one, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out. Thank you to the City of Broken Bow for the use of the building. We appreciate that. KCNI, KBBN, KBBN, and of course to the Custer County Chief. We are excited to bring you this. You know, I came to this county in 2013, and where I came from, we never had forums that we could go to and see the candidate. I had to make a decision from a 30-second soundbite, or reading a newspaper ad, or reading something in my mail. This is very important, and I'm proud that in Custer County, we have made this type of thing available. So I'm sure the candidates will welcome anything one-on-one with you. Again, all of the supervisors, thank you for stepping up. If you don't step up, where are we going to be? Because we need good, solid people in leadership. So thank you again, everyone, for coming.